Hey guys, how's it going? So, the more I've been thinking about this Superman movie we just watched, Superman 2025, directed by James Gunn, starring David Corenswet, I know if you saw my review, my out of the theater review of this film, you knew I was not happy. I had so many issues with it. Some things I did enjoy, but I was just so disappointed by what I saw. I was expecting so much more, and it did not live up to it whatsoever, and I was very disappointed. But as time has gone by, the more I've thought about this film, the more it just makes less and less sense. I mean, I am intending to watch this film again because I do always like to give films a second chance if I think it's worth it. But this cannot be denied. There are so many issues with this film that no matter how many times I watch it, those issues will remain. And so I have these notes here in this little pad because I can't remember everything. It's impossible to remember all this stuff and talk off the cuff. So I've literally listed in the order of the film all the issues that I saw that just bugged me, and like I couldn't talk about them or remember them all in the moment. But now that I've had time to process it, I've listed all of these down, and I'm just going to go through these one by one to explain all of the actual issues, both plot wise, narrative, all of this stuff, character motivations, and all of these things that don't make any sense and just indicative of a really bad script that James Gunn came up with for this film. And so these are things that just cannot be denied, if you ask me, in terms of what was actually done in the script. And so I'm going to go through them one by one, and let's start at the very beginning. So obviously we see Superman at the beginning. He's in the snow. He's been defeated, and it's explained that he just lost his first fight to the Hammer of Bravia. Now, this is spoilers here we're going to talk about, obviously, so I can go through all of these. It's revealed much later in the film that the Hammer of Bravia is indeed Ultraman, and Ultraman is a clone of Clark Kent, Superman. So, but at the beginning, there's this guy in a machine who has defeated Superman in a fight, and Superman has recharged himself at the Fortress of Solitude so they can go back and fight him again to defeat him, because this is the first time he has ever lost a fight. So already straight away, this is showing us, this is okay, the Hammer of Bravia is a big threat. What's Superman going to do? He heads back to Metropolis after getting charged and gets his ass handed to him again. Now, I don't have a problem with that in isolation, because maybe you could have another fight later on where he finally figures out how to defeat him, but that didn't happen. So here we are against the Hammer of Bravia. He gets smashed once again, and at the end of the fight, the hammer just takes off, and Superman just watches it take off, and it's like, it doesn't care. Like, it doesn't make sense, because he's Superman, and he has just lost his first fight in 3 years of being Superman. He should think, wow, that's a really actually dangerous threat out there. I might actually need to look into this and find out who this guy is so I can take him down, because he's too dangerous. But no, he doesn't give a second thought to it really at all. And, he doesn't know that the Hammer is Ultraman, who he does end up fighting later on. So it seems really strange that Superman doesn't perceive him as a threat. He just kind of watches him fly off once he's down in the rubble and all the civilians are gathered around him. So I had a massive issue with that, on top of just the fact that he gets beaten twice already in the introduction to this film. And this is our first time in Superman. We're already seeing him getting beaten down so much, and this is a constant theme throughout the film, by the way. I'm going to touch on this more later, but straight off the bat, it's just a bad first impression to the Superman that he just constantly gets beaten and like doesn't seem very super to me at all. So that was a big issue I had, about the Hammer of Bravia. And on top of that, like why isn't America perceiving that this Hammer of Bravia from this foreign country has just come into America, into Metropolis, and wreaked havoc, and they don't care about that at all. In fact, they're more interested in like kind of crushing Superman and bringing him down, but they don't really have any concern for this Hammer guy. So that just seemed all out of place to me. But it's kind of on theme for this film, which I felt was whiplash fast. Like everything was happening so quick, nothing had any breathing time, and that's consistent throughout most of these issues that I have. So just keep that in mind, is that overall I felt this film was just way too rushed. And coming to my second point, it goes right from there, from the end of that fight. Like I said, he doesn't address it at all, and it just flips over to the Daily Prophet, and Clark Kent is going to work today at the Daily Prophet. Just the tonal whiplash was just like crazy straight off the bat with this film. I was following it because I liked the characters and the performances that were being given by the actors, but it just was disappointing that there was just no breathing space between anything. It's just like, oh, well, we're done with the Hammer of Bravia. Let's go to work at Daily Planet. So I just found that really strange and just really poor kind of pacing within the script. Then the next issue I had was the kaiju fight. So I've actually said in my previous review that the kaiju fight was probably my favorite display of Superman in action in the whole film, compared to all the other fights. I thought because one, you get to see him fighting the big monster, but at the same time, he's saving civilians. It's the kind of things you want to see Superman doing. And I thought that was done the best within that scene. But the issue I had with it in hindsight is that, it's a bit corny, but usually Superman gets a grand entrance to at least one or his first fight in a film, his first proper one that he's going to win. And there was no entrance. He just the Kaiju's just there. And the setup for that is really stupid, that this little monster gets released and it's like played for a joke. And then all of a sudden it's massive. And then just all of a sudden, okay, the fight's happening. The Kaiju's broken loose in the city. What's good? And civilians just treating it like it's normal. And so Superman just got to come in, join the Justice Gang and all that and take it down. It just all felt very mediocre and like non-epic. Superhero films should have these epic moments that really make you feel lifted up and make you inspired, but nothing about that was inspiring. I appreciated the action within the scene, but the beginning of the scene, his entrance there just did not feel like on brand for Superman. The next issue I had was at the conclusion of that fight against the Kaiju, once it's taken down. Superman is completely disrespected by the Justice Gang because Superman wants to keep this thing alive. He says he wants to send it to some sort of space zoo or whatever, keep it alive or euthanize it peacefully at least. And the Justice Gang are like, no, whatever, dude, no, you're stupid, just take it down. And they kill it. And so he's completely disrespected by the Justice Gang when he is more powerful than them. He should have the final say. But anyways, at the conclusion of that fight is when the big reveal of the film happens, which is the second half of the message from his father Jor-El, which is broadcast on the news. And I felt like this was done so poorly because you have one moment everyone's cheering for Superman and the Justice Gang. He's holding little kids. They're all loving him. And they saw him do something super heroic. And then like a flip of a coin, they turn on him and they're throwing stuff at him and they're booing and all this stuff. It just seems so cartoonish and unbelievable that this is how people would handle it or would react in the situation. No one was stepping in to try and defend Superman. No one felt like they need to protect him. No, this must be fake. No one's first inclination was, no, this must be fake. Everyone was like, no, I believe this 100%. Whoa, I just saw Superman do something heroic with my own eyes, but here, this happened. Oh my God, he's terrible. Let's take him down. Doesn't make sense. Just felt, again, tonal whiplash, really rushed scene. Instead of dragging it out a little bit to show the change, there was nothing there. And it just felt like, oh, okay, this happened. Now we have to go off in that direction. So I felt that was really poorly done. Then the next issue I had in this film, and there's not so much of a plot error, but just a really stupid moment, was, it's a shame because it was the conversation between Clark and Lois, the second one they have, which I believe is in Clark's apartment, where he's kind of down after hearing this message, and she goes there to talk to him, and there's this alien imp thing, which we saw from the promotional materials in the background. And everyone always wondered from that first photo we saw of this film where he's putting on his bootstraps seemingly slowly and like disinterested. Meanwhile, this great threat is in the background. We were all kind of saying, okay, let's wait and see what the context is before we judge this moment. Turns out the context is actually worse. Now it's actually worse now that we have the context, because he is there. He's like moping. Lois is talking to him. And she's saying, shouldn't you go help them? The Justice Gang are out the window fighting it. And he's like, no, they can handle it. It's fine. He's Superman. Firstly, they need his help. Secondly, he has made it clear how important human life is to him and swooping in to save people at the last minute. And he's happy to let this alien wreak havoc. And there could be all this collateral damage that the Justice Gang does not care about anywhere near as much as Clark does. What the hell? And the whole reason for this, the worst part, is that it's played for a stupid James Gunn joke. That's what it's for. It's for no other reason than to have a dumb joke playing in the background while this serious conversation is taking place. It's meant to be some sort of artsy, creative thing. Wow, look, this serious conversation with the stupid backdrop. But it takes away from the moment completely. And it's one of my favorite lines in the film, actually, when Clark or Superman says to Lois, maybe kindness is the new punk rock. And that's actually a really cool line. It speaks to his character, and we needed to explore that more. But instead, the whole scene is played for a joke. And so that was just so disappointing, but it's on brand for this film, where basically every serious scene is undercut by a dumb joke, whether it's Krypto, whether it's a stupid alien in the background, or whatever's going on. They cannot let a serious moment sit. It always needs to be undercut by a joke. And I was worried about this going in with James Gunn as the writer and director, and all of that came true. So super disappointing. The next issue. So this was more of an issue of this whole section of the film, the second act, which predominantly takes place in the pocket dimension. I couldn't stand this whole section of the film. It did not need to happen. In fact, if you remove that whole portion from the film, basically nothing changes. Like, Superman doesn't learn or experience anything in that pocket dimension that he needs to then fulfill his acts in the third act. Because nothing he does in the third act is based on it. It's almost like a new movie starts anyway. So the whole thing there, firstly, it starts with Luthor putting him in a cell there. The whole scene plays honestly like Dr. Evil in Austin Powers, when Dr. Evil just says, I'm just gonna put Austin Powers in there and just hope that he doesn't escape. What's so wrong with that? That works in a comedy. Unfortunately, it doesn't work here because, of course, he's Superman. He's going to try to escape, and he just thinks putting him next to Metamorpho or everything will be fine. It's like, no. But then the other dumb thing that happens in this moment is that there's the street vendor Malik, who Superman has some sort of connection to, and he's got him there, and Lex decides to play Russian roulette with him because he wants information from Superman on where his parents are, otherwise he's going to kill this guy. And Superman's trying to tell him no, and Malik's telling him not to say anything. It has the potential to be a serious moment. The problem is that Lex is in a stupid way. He really wants this information, but he decides to play the dumbest game to achieve it, which is Russian roulette, because the chances are 1 in 6 that he's going to blow this guy's brains out, which he ends up doing, and thus has no more leverage to get the information. Why would Superman tell him where his parents are if he kills this guy? It doesn't make sense. Do anything else, threaten anything, shoot him in the leg, shoot him somewhere, do something that's actually genuinely intimidating and doesn't just have a high chance of accidentally killing the guy. I know it's played to try and make Lex out to be this sort of loose cannon, but narratively it doesn't make sense for his motivation. So that was just nonsensical to me, but it fits well with that whole pocket dimension, which was all completely nonsensical and irrelevant. In fact, when Superman finally breaks free of his cell, he takes out 2 guards and damn well could have killed them with how fast he hit them. And there's a moment where he saved the baby, he saved Krypto, he's done the heroic thing. And of course they undercut it with the stupid joke where Krypto jumps onto him and smashes him to the ground. It's just, everything is played for a dumb joke. Nothing can be taken seriously in this film, and that's what frustrates me the most. But moving on. So after they break free of the pocket dimension, Superman has kryptonite poisoning, and so he's sort of incapacitated, and they take him to his Earth parents, Ma and Pa Kent, on their farm. And this is where you get possibly one of the best scenes in the film, but it's only one of the best scenes out of context. And what I mean by that is you get some inspiring words by Pa Kent when they're sitting on the porch together, telling him how, it's nothing groundbreaking. He's basically telling you it's not about who you are, where you come from, it's about the choices you make, and I'm so proud of you. It was a touching moment, it was nice. But when you look at it from Superman's perspective or Clark's perspective and what he's gone through in this film, there's nothing to suggest that he needed that pep talk, because after hearing the message from Jor-El, which basically was saying to make a harem of Earth, there's something that he couldn't believe he heard, and it broke his heart to hear this message. He still continued to be the hero after that. It's not like we saw Superman spiral after that and not care about being a hero anymore or anything like that. Despite everything that was happening, he didn't seem to divert from what he believes his primary goal is. So when he's sitting there on that porch, he's still very much the man he's been the whole time. He doesn't need to be convinced to be that man anymore, or that he is genuinely a good man, because he has not in any way shown that he is going to be tempted by Jor-El's message. It's tonal inconsistency. There's nothing to worry about Superman being. We're not in a position there where we think like Superman has been going down the wrong path. No, he's still been super this whole time, if just in that pocket dimension. And it's it doesn't quite make sense. It's trying to make a more powerful moment out of what it actually has. There's nothing actually tangible there to grasp to. I'm just saying, that's why I'm saying out of context, it's a good scene, but within context, it's not really that powerful when I thought about it. So it's kind of disappointing. What else did I have here in my dot points? Yeah, so the next issue I had after that whole scene was then they get the broadcast from Jarampur, the country that's being invaded by Baravia. And this is where I thought, okay, this needs to be an epic moment, because this right here, the events taking place, are what was being referenced in the first conversation in the film between Clark and Lois. The whole debate about interventionism, about Superman crossing borders without consulting anyone, doing what he feels. This is here the chance to pay it off. The kids are raising the flag. The Superman theme is playing, the John Williams classic score. Have Superman arrive at that moment to save the day. What the hell are you thinking? Like, I don't get it. It was so stupid that nothing happens in that moment. All you get is the forces moving in to invade. But then the conclusion of that whole conflict is the Justice Gang going there to save the day. And the whole intended message behind that is that, oh, look, the Justice Gang, Superman needs his friends, and the Justice Gang decided to do the right thing despite the whole time not wanting to do it. It didn't land, though, because it didn't feel like the whole theme of this film was Superman trying to be this image for others to aspire to, because they did disrespecting him the whole film. So it didn't feel like when they finally arrived that they were honoring Superman's message or what he stands for. It just felt like they were there for their own interests. And on top of that, it should have been Superman who went there because it was relating to the setup at the beginning of the film. He should have been there to save the day. And what you could have done with that, because you have the other conflicts going on in Metropolis and what's happening there with the Earth parting and all of that, show the urgency of Superman, that he has to save these two countries at once, like, and what's happening, like, show that he is able to do that, and only him is able to do that. They instead says, no, you can only be in one place, pick or choose, and he chooses Metropolis, which has nothing to do with what was being set up early in the film. So that was really disappointing to me, that you had the John Williams theme playing and the imagery of the little kids raising the flag. If they had just had Superman show up there with that music playing, it could have been a really epic moment and actually paid off what was being set up, but didn't happen, so it didn't make sense, and it was stupid. But moving on. Yes, okay, so going on to here, the film has an anti-interventionist message. It starts at the beginning of that conversation, like I said, and it is mentioned throughout about the idea of America supporting Bravia in their invasion of Joranpur. The culmination of this does not make any sense, because the Justice Gang come and we're meant to feel like it's a whole happy ending, they saved the country. Friggin' Hawkgirl took the leader of that country and dropped him to his death. If that's not interventionism, I don't know what is. So they could have easily made matters worse by doing that, because anyone who has any sense of how these conflicts go, there's always people who are going to support the guy in his own country. And if you've just killed him, but brazenly, what kind of international matter, like, issue do you have on your hands now? Like, this, if it was bad already, what is it like now? So even if you stopped the invasion, you've killed their leader, which can just create mass dysfunction and all this sorts of stuff, which we've seen happen in the real world. So the film has no sort of understanding of what interventionism actually looks like and how to resolve it in a proper way. It just baffled me that they decided to kill the guy like that. It was like, you have a much worse issue on your hands now. So that was insanely stupid. The next issue, so Superman obviously confronts Ultraman. He's in a fight with him and the Engineer, which drags on a long while. I'm not going to get into the whole details of that. There's a fight in the baseball field and all that I didn't really care for too much. Then it comes down to one-on-one between him and Ultraman, and it shows that Ultraman is indeed the clone of Clark Kent or Superman, and they have a scuffle. Superman basically needs Krypto to come to his aid to help. So once again, Superman cannot get the job done on his own. He needs help from someone, whether it's the Justice Gang or Krypto or other means. He always needs help, this Superman, which makes him less super. He gets his help, so he's able to defeat Ultraman, who gets sucked into a black hole. And at the end of that, you're thinking, well, if people are upset in Man of Steel about Superman having to kill Zod, he just lets Ultraman die here and doesn't seem to have any care. You would think out of anyone that he would care about, it's seeing a person who has the exact same face of him. He should have some sort of care for that. Even though he's a clone, he's still a human being of sorts, and like, he's mind controlled. So Superman should have some sympathy for him, but he has none. And so the film just kind of forgets that this Superman really cares about human life, about saving everyone, no matter how bad they are, even Lex Luthor, but just lets Ultraman die like that. So, well, maybe not die, maybe he's sucked into another dimension and we'll see him again, but he's assuming he's dying by being sucked in this black hole. And so it's just stupid and doesn't make sense. But just like the rest of this film, not much does. Then we get to the very end of the film where Superman confronts Lex in his sort of headquarters. And there's actually a cool kind of conversation taking place where Superman explaining to him, I am just a man, I'm a human being, like I feel the same things as you and all of that. Like he even though he comes from another planet, all these things. He's saying a lot of good stuff. And Lex is about to come back at him. And then, classic James Gunn fashion, the scene turns into a joke. Krypto jumps in and starts hammering the crap out of Lex Luthor. And it's meant to be just reminiscent basically of that Hulk and Loki scene from the first Avengers. And it's just played for a joke. And it's a stupid one. And it's like, just takes, well, that sums up the film to me. When I saw that moment happen, I'm like, yeah, that puts a pretty nice bow on what this film is all about. It's a joke at every turn. And that's how it's summarized. So nothing felt serious in this film. Nothing felt like it had any weight to it, because anytime it had a chance to build some sort of weight, just completely undercut by a joke, and that summarized it right there. And then at the very end, if this Superman didn't get enough disrespect, he gets called a bitch by Supergirl, his cousin. But this actually did bring up kind of an issue, which was, so Supergirl is canonically older than Clark. So she would have been there on Krypton when it was being destroyed. So she would have known Clark's parents. They were uncle and aunt. She doesn't know that they were actually evil and intending for the domination and destruction of Earth and all its people. I don't understand. Maybe this will get explained in the Supergirl movie, but it just seems like kind of a strange thing that could be a plot issue going forward if it's not explained properly. But it's just kind of in line with the rest of this film, where a lot of things happen and are said, but nothing really makes sense, and nothing is coherent or fits within the context of the film. So that's all the list of things that I had, but I'm sure there are way more issues out there. And if there are, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts below. What did you think of my thoughts here, guys? I know some of these are quite nitpicky. I'm not gonna lie about that, but this is, they are also truth in the sense that on a narrative level, a lot of these things do not make sense. And this is why the film was bugging me so much. And I needed to do a bit of a deep dive and think about it more to actually collate them so that I can explain them all to you and just have them all in front of me right here. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. If there's things I missed, or if there's things that you think have explaining that I'm looking too much into, I'd love to hear all those too. I'm happy to hear positive and negative thoughts on this video, whatever it may be. But I will give this film another chance eventually. I don't know when, but just to see if it maybe I get just on an aesthetic level, I enjoy it a bit more. I find some sort of nuggets of things that I appreciate a bit more. But it can't be denied that on a narrative level, this film is a mess. But look, there are films out there that I've loved before that are dumb and stupid, but they're a lot of fun and I can enjoy them. So maybe this film will be like that for me one day. At the moment, I'm sitting somewhere on like a 4.5 or 5 out of 10 for this film, but it's just got so much wasted potential with this cast and all that. So yeah, thanks for watching the video, guys. I really appreciate it. Leave your comments in the comment section below, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.